it is actually selfish not to love myself.
I realized that what empaths feel things in their body, things that are not theirs, problems of other people.
The ultimate act of selflessness isn't to sacrifice yourself for others, but to be selfish, to think of yourself.
As an empath, you need a strong ego so that you can actually know that, oh, these are my emotions. I need to take care of myself. With no ego, you lose yourself in the problems of everyone else.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever felt too sensitive to the energies all around you, then do we have the Sensitive is the New Strong show for you. Today I'll be talking with one of my all-time favorite authors and human beings, Anita Moorjani, the New York Times bestselling author of Dying to Be Me, about her latest out-of-the-park grand slam, Sensitive is the New Strong. And that's just what I want to talk with her about today, about how to discover your superpowers as a sensitive person. That, plus we'll talk about stuffed dogs and toy projectors, Michelangelo and angels, arranged marriages and gurus, 5 Minutes in Cosmo, what on earth are clown-shaped cookies, and what in the world expressing one inner Cyndi Lauper has to do with anything. So welcome back to the show, Anita. Are you ready to shine?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And thank you so much, Michael. My interview with you, I think it was last year or whenever it was, it doesn't seem that long ago. It was one of my all-time favorite interviews. It just stayed in my mind how much fun we had.
Woohoo! I'm like,
Yep.
big hugs. I couldn't agree more. And I'm so, yes, can feel the hug. I am so happy to have you on the show today, Anita. So I've read your book. We're going to start on script, and then we are going to see where we are carried by the waters today. So do I go to the question? No, I'm going to read one of my all-time favorite quotes in the book, and we're going to dive right in there. I believe that every decision we make, every choice either takes us a step forward toward expressing and accepting our most authentic selves or takes us a step back towards losing ourselves, toward being small, and ultimately toward disease. Please forgive me for asking, Anita, but do you feel your sensitivity and the choices you made played a role in your getting sick?
Oh, 100%, 110%, or 1,000%. It had everything to do with me getting sick. And I want to be clear here. I'm speaking for myself. And I don't like to make blanket statements and say, oh, this is going to make you sick. No, but I am speaking for myself. And I have had thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who have said to me that they relate to what I'm saying. And so because people relate to it, I share what I share so people don't have to go through what I went through. Because upon discovering that I'm an empath, I realized that what empaths do is they internalize things. They feel things with their bodies, in their bodies. They feel it within their chemistry, things that are not theirs, problems of other people, problems of the world. They feel it when they hear stories of people starving on the other side of the world. And they feel this pull and this calling, and it changes their chemistry, and they take it on themselves. And we seem to think that it's normal to feel this way. We tend to assume that everybody thinks this way, but they don't. And then because of the way we're feeling, we don't realize we've taken on the energies and the emotions of people around us and the world around us. And because we don't realize that, we think these are our own emotions. And so every thought, every action, every decision we make comes from this place of these emotions and identifying with them and thinking they're ours. And so we're dealing with healing problems that are not our problems. And we can do it to the point where we get sick, which is what happened to me, literally. And I can dive into that very specifically and deeper as this conversation rolls as to what actually happened for me step by step.
Yeah, I would love to hear that. In fact, we'll dive in there after one more question. Let's go there. But the question is, as you're saying this, I'm hearing this booming voice in my head saying 2021. It is such a period of divergent energies, over the top. It's like a tsunami cresting and crashing upon us. How if we have this empathic sensitivity? Well, how are you dealing with it? Let's go there.
It hasn't been easy. And the thing is that I wrote this book because I had to figure out tools for me to navigate this world. And as I started sharing the tools on my YouTube channel, people were saying, oh my God, that's so helpful. That's so helpful. That's how this book unfolded, because I realized that there weren't tools out there to deal with the space I was in. So this whole 2020 and 2021 thing exacerbated it even more. But prior to that, imagine being an empath, super sensitive. And by the way, although I was the one that created those questions, I scored 33 out of 34 yeses. So I'm like super, like you can't get higher in the level of empath than what I scored. And so I realized that now I was thrown into this world of social media. I mean, social media is a minefield. And you're thrown into this world of social media, and you're in the public eye, and you're sharing your story, and you're dealing with beautiful, beautiful people. Thankfully, most of my audience are amazing. The people who relate to my story are empaths, and I've learned so much from them. But just because you're out there, we also attract debunkers and naysayers. It's just part of the turf. And when you're an empath, those are what stands out for you. Your mind just homes in and focuses on those. And so I realized that if I'm going to continue to do the work I do, I need to figure out tools to help me navigate this world. And I don't mean just this physical world, but even this world of media and social media and all. And then you have 2020 thrown in with all these other energies, and people are even angrier and more divisive. And I found that even if I was sharing an opinion, whether it's about masks or whether it's about vaccines, just an opinion or a question or just wanting to know more information, a whole argument would explode. Like it was just, all these topics were so heated that you couldn't even have a conversation about it or even an inquiry about it without people labeling you as one side or the other, or without it becoming polarized and politicized and divisive. And I thought, holy moly, how am I going to navigate this? And one of the things I realized is that for an empath, at least for me, the divisiveness was the worst part of it. Mm-hmm. The energies, the fear-based energies around this whole pandemic and the divisiveness it was causing and the fear it was causing was worse than the actual, pandemic itself. That was worse. That was affecting me more and affecting everybody else more. And so I realized I really have to come up with tools to navigate this.
And I want to dive into a little bit of your story, then go to the tools. And I said I was going to ask that the next question, but first I will ask one more. Is this, however, even though, like, I wasn't told it growing up, I was just beat up. That was the guy way of taking it. My wife, she was just continuously told she's too sensitive. But do you think it is a good thing to be, I'll put that in quotes, too sensitive?
I think sensitivity is sorely lacking in our world today, sorely lacking. So there's no such thing as too sensitive at the moment, none. Because we are at the other end of the spectrum where as a race, as a culture, as a human race, we lack sensitivity. We lack sensitivity towards our fellow humans. We lack sensitivity towards the planet. Before the pandemic, the direction the planet was going, we couldn't keep going the way we were going. It was not sustainable the way we were as a planet. Governments were, as a race, we were more interested in developing tools to kill each other than we were in feeding each other as a planet. Governments were comparing the size of their nuclear weapons. If so how could we continue? In a way, I feel this pandemic might have even been a divine intervention to get us to stop dead on our tracks and shift our focus. And so, and now people aren't talking about nuclear weapons or anything anymore. And the planet did stop. And, people commuting to work, it stopped. Pollution stopped. Air travel stopped. And so there has been nothing, as far as I know, in our history where one thing has brought the entire planet to its knees the way this has.
I believe that we are being, it's certainly a bifurcation. A dear friend of mine, Dr. Ervin Laszlo, who's a two-time Nobel Peace Prize nominee, he calls it a bifurcation of humanity. We can go off the cliff or we can raise to a higher level. And I believe that the work you're doing, the work that we're doing, and the pandemic in general is requiring us to dive inward. For people who weren't sensitive, who had their eyes closed, to realize, wait a second, I can be attuned, I can open my eyes. And for those of us who are incredibly sensitive, to say, finally, come on, let's show you the way.
That's it. That's it. In a nutshell, yes.
So then would you mind sharing, Anita, how, very briefly, because I want to get today into the nuts and bolts of helping people discover and use their superpowers, but what's the link? You said you could take me through step by step, the link that brought you, I can't believe I was going to say the link that brought you to the brink, and then I heard, no, the link that brought you to greatness. Because greatness came to the other side of what you were doing, of your journey.
Thank you. Well, so I love that, actually, the link that brought you to the brink. That's catchy. But so what actually brought me on this journey? I didn't know I was an empath. I wish I did. I would not have had to go through the cancer and death and everything if I knew. That's why I share my story. The first thing is to recognize that you are an empath, and then to recognize that it's a gift, it's a good thing. So I had no idea about empaths and what it meant. And I want to try and keep this brief, but years ago, before I had my own cancer diagnosis, and for people who don't know my story, I did almost die from stage 4 terminal cancer. But before my own diagnosis, in the year, I think it was 2000 or somewhere there, my best friend was diagnosed. And as an empath, the thing about empaths, I will also want to say, is that I mentioned that empaths feel things in their body. They feel what other people are feeling. And because they feel what other people are feeling, they need other people to feel good so that they can feel good. So if you're around people who are feeling awful, as an empath, you feel awful as well. And then you take it on yourself to try and make everyone feel better, because you can't feel better until they feel better. That's one of the problems with being an empath. And I say problem, but in actuality, it's a gift, because it means you're very intuitive, but you don't realize that you're doing this. And that's why you go down that spiral of thinking, oh my gosh, I need them to feel better. And we just do it unconsciously without thinking. We just need everybody around us to feel good. And we innately do that. It's in our nature, because only when they feel good, we feel good. So my friend got diagnosed with cancer, and it was a very aggressive form of cancer. She was my best friend. She was my age. And when she got the news, it was as if I got the news for myself. That's how I took it. That's how I felt. I felt her fear. I felt what she was going through. And every part of me, every cell in my body wanted to be there for her and help her through this and cheer her on. And it got to the point where I was not even able to have fun or go out with my friends or go shopping or do anything for myself without feeling guilty, because my best friend was dying. It was like, how dare I have fun? How dare I enjoy my life when she is suffering and when she is struggling?
Can I pause you for a brief second?
Sure.
Because that is what so many of our listeners are saying. How can you, Michael, you talk about getting to a higher level, going to the higher room, bringing pure joy, bringing the light, but there's so much suffering out there. Why would I allow myself to feel good?
Yes, exactly. That's how I am, but now I know I'm like that. I mitigate it. But yes, that's the key. I'm glad you paused me there. And so I was there for my best friend. I was there for her family. Now, here's the thing. I was feeling, I had my own issues. I had my own problems. The universe was, I mean, I stopped taking care of myself because how dare I take care of myself and do things like go to the hairdresser, go to the spa, go to a massage when my friend is dying of cancer. There was nothing that felt bigger or more important than what she was going through. Everything I did felt petty. And so I didn't realize, but in this time, I was wearing myself down. My immune system was getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And then I found a lump on the side of my neck. I panicked. I went to the doctor. He biopsied it, and he said it was lymphoma. They did a scan, and they said it had spread to one quadrant of my body, and so it was staged at stage 2 lymphoma. It took me by shock because here was my best friend going through cancer, and I was there to support her, and now I had cancer. But there was a piece of me that said, now I can pause and take care of myself. I had permission to take care of myself because now I had something really big. So, and it goes even deeper than that, because even when I was on the other side, when I had my near-death experience, I wanted to know, why is it that if I'm an empath and if I'm there for people, why did my wake-up call have to be so big? Why couldn't it have just been smaller stuff to wake me up? And the message I got was that you were getting lots of wake-up calls, but nothing was big enough, because no matter what came your way, your best friend's cancer was bigger to you than anything. So we had to give you something equally big to put your attention back onto yourself. I had to get something equally big to take care of myself. And this is my message to people. You don't need to have cancer or any illness or any big wake-up call. You have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself if you want to be here for the world and other people. You have to, because as an empath, you being of service to the world comes to you as easy as breathing. It's who you are.
It is so interesting that that last part, you are so deserving and worthy. On some level, please forgive me, you didn't feel deserving or worthy of putting the attention back on yourself until the disease was big enough.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And that is the crux of the challenge today, is so many are sitting on the couch watching all of the world's, quote, problems. And they're saying, it's so big, it's too important for me to step forward in my own life. This other drama playing out there is too important. And so I'm not a fighter at all, Anita, not at all. But we're not putting on our own gloves and going, go, Rocky, go, and saying, I need to take back my life.
Yes, exactly. And you know, a lot of people will still feel, but there's a world out there that needs to be helped. How can I help the world if I'm just helping myself? It's being selfish. And I explain all of that in the book about how we're all connected. We are all connected. And me getting cancer, and although it's benefited me tremendously today, it's catapulted me into what I do today. But I'm saying that in that moment, if my life had unraveled in the trajectory that it was supposed to, which was that I should have died on February the 2nd, the doctors told me I was in my final hours. How would that have served anything? That was the trajectory that my empath personality was heading for.
It's so interesting that you say supposed to and on track, because you were supposed to be here speaking with me. You were on track. You were on one supposed track to teach you the lessons so that you can share. But this has all been divinely orchestrated. Not that you haven't had choices, you certainly have, but this is divinely orchestrated. But what we're saying here today is, look, you can also have the drive yourself into a tree, but there is an easier way if you choose yourself.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
But with that said, and then let's dive into some of the superpowers. Can't believe I'm going to ask this. No, it's fun. Would you change anything?
No, I wouldn't. Not a thing. Not a thing. I love where I am today. Love, love, love it. Just, there's so much freedom where I am.
It is a gift to be, I'll call it hypersensitive, isn't it?
It is. It is a gift to be hypersensitive, because with that sensitivity comes things like deep emotions, intuition, creativity. Like the best musicians, the best artists, even psychics, the best healers, the clairvoyants, intuits, they're all deeply sensitive and in tune. Our animals, our pets, they're all deeply sensitive and they're in tune. They're in tune. And that is what keeps them safe in the world. You know, if you heard about the tsunami back in 2004 or 2005, they called it the Boxing Day tsunami in Asia, off the coast of Indonesia. That tsunami actually flooded all the coastal towns, and hundreds of thousands of people succumbed and died, including a lot of tourists from the US and Europe and Australia. All these high-end resorts, they were all destroyed. But yet it was discovered later that hardly any, if any, animals died, hardly any. And that was because all the animals knew before the tsunami came to go to higher ground, because they were intuitive, they were sensitive to the earth and the patterns, and they knew. That's what sensitivity is. Those are the gifts that empaths actually have, but we have suppressed them to try and fit in to this world. We actually sacrifice our gifts because of our desire to want to belong. And we have this need for approval. And because of our desire for approval, we sacrifice the gifts that we were born with.
If we can get to the other side of it, we're the wayfarers, aren't we?
Yes, yes. It took years, even after the NDE, it took years for me to get to a place mentally, emotionally, psychologically to where I am now. Because I came back exactly that, thinking, oh my gosh, I know this truth. I'm sure everybody will want to know it.
Which gets to, let's jump way ahead in the book, which actually you go on to say, and I talk about integrating our ego, bringing the ego in. Ego is not a bad thing. You take it a step further and you say you need balance with your ego. Your ego is a good thing, particularly if you're sensitive. You need that pow sense of self, because you're coming back and you're telling everybody that, wait a second, the world isn't flat, it's not round, it's octagonal, it's in a different dimension.
Yes. I like to change things up a little bit, but yes, I know that for me, when I was growing up, even when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was going for these spiritual lessons, and my parents would take me when I was younger to see gurus in my culture, and all I ever learned was that you have to tame that ego, you have to suppress that ego, you have to kill that ego. The ego is bad. The ego is bad. So I always judged my ego, and every time I had a desire, I was like, no, that's my ego. Got to tame the ego, and so. Every time I wanted to voice something, I had a voice. It was like, no, that's my ego wanting something different. And it made me so subservient, like actually squashing my ego, made me subservient to the point of being invisible. Couple that with coming from a culture with gender disparity and where women are valued for being subservient and obedient. I couldn't even fight for the rights of women because I believed that was my ego wanting attention and wanting women to have attention. So suppress that damn ego, only to find out when I died that I'm supposed to have an ego, because the ego allows me to express who I am. And I realized that I also, when I started to think back, that wow, and all those gurus and spiritual gurus who are standing there on the stage telling us to suppress our ego, they've got the biggest ego in the room, because you need an ego to be able to stand on stage and address an audience. You need a healthy ego that gives you the confidence to be able to do that, and an ego to be able to tell you that what I'm saying will help everyone. And I know they were well-meaning. I don't want to judge any of them for their message. I know they were absolutely well-meaning, but I realized that you cannot be up there sharing your message unless you have an ego. I have to build up a healthy ego so that I can share what I'm sharing. Because if I didn't, I would be hiding in the shadows again. And there was another piece I wanted to share about the ego, is that there are people who are egotistical. And egotistical to me is having too much ego with no conscious awareness, with no sensitivity or empathy. An empath has too much sensitivity and empathy, and I don't like to say too much, but is a full-on with sensitivity and empathy. And if they then have no ego, they lose their sense of self in the problems of everyone else. That's where I was. As an empath with no ego, you lose yourself in the problems of everyone else. As an empath, you need a strong ego so that you can actually know that, oh, these are my emotions. I need to take care of myself. These are the problems of everyone else. I am feeling them because I am an empath. I am sensitive, but I need to be aware of where I begin and where they end. An empath needs their ego. And the messages from spiritual teachers of the past disempower empaths. And I know that when we look at the world at large, it appears to be run by people with big egos. The thing is, spiritual messages are usually, the spiritual teachings and messages and classes are usually attended by empaths, because empaths gravitate to spirituality like moths to a flame. People with huge egos who are busy taking over the world and only wanting power are not even attracted to spiritual messages. So the ones who need to hear the message about, hey, your ego's too big, you need to curtail your ego, they're not even the ones attending or listening to those spiritual teachings. The ones who are gravitating to spiritual teachings are the ones getting the message that you have to suppress the ego. The wrong people are getting the message. And so if empaths and sensitive people and compassionate people are getting the message that we have to be small and we have to suppress our ego and we have to dim our light and we have to be of service all the time, and it's better to give than to receive, so we never learn to receive, and we're giving and giving, and then we end up getting depleted. We end up hiding in the shadows, while the louder, more aggressive and egotistical voices among us continue to take over the world.
Wow, wow,
That's
wow.
what I wanted to say.
There are about a dozen. I've taken many notes with many strings on all these different directions we can go. I guess the first one that I have to go to is be careful the messenger. Because my guess is, as an empath, it's easy to get sucked into that which has the greatest energy. And so we can end up with an abusive guru, or end up in this situation. I believe you were 26, you had run from an arranged marriage, and here is a guru who hopefully was coming from a place of love, but is squashing you down beyond squashing you down.
Yes, it made me feel I was wrong for doing what I did, yes, and that I was spoilt and choosy. Yeah.
It's interesting. I've
Yes.
been channeling as part of my empath journey. I've been channeling more and more. In fact, we have a book on channeling. The automatic writing experience. I teach people how to do automatic writing now, Anita, so that they can connect
Oh, I
to
love that.
to the other. I'll get you a copy. I will get you a copy. So, with that said, I've been channeling a couple months ago. It was Napoleon Hill. This past month, it's Neville Goddard. And a concept has come out of this called the law of balances, which is that everything has to be equal and everything will be brought to equal. And so, working this through, if we are super sensitive to others and only thinking of others, then the equal side of the equation is I don't matter. So
Yes.
if we're going to play the game at the high level of, we're going to get there, of self-love, of I matter, if you get to not dim your light, but say, I'm super sensitive, this is the greatest gift in the world. Now, like you're saying in the book, I need to bring everything else up to match it, unapologetically so.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And it takes self-love, it takes a healthy ego. And you brought up a really good point about gurus and things like that. So another thing that I talk about is you have to check in with how you feel inside. Any spiritual teacher has to make you feel empowered. It's not about them. It's not about them getting followers. It's not about believing in them. It's about what they feed you. It's about how you feel when you listen to that person, not about them. If they instill fear in you, then they're not good for you. They're not right. You need to walk away feeling that you are powerful, not that they are powerful. That's how you tell.
Thank you. So with that guru, he said, if you had the kingdom of heaven, would you let somebody in who was dirty or needed to be washed or bathed? There's something, forgive me for butchering it, but I get the concept right, of God's not going to let you in if you're sinful or something. You feel that inside of yourself, because this is a superpower right here. We have a scale of balance. I know you have an amazing scale of balance inside of you, Anita. And you say, does this feel light? Does this feel heavy? Does this feel true to me?
Yes, exactly. Does it feel true to me? Does it uplift me? Does it make me feel light? Or have I walked away feeling beaten down and that I've done wrong? Or do I feel judged? And you're supposed to walk away feeling light and uplifted and empowered. You're supposed to walk away with a clearer connection and a clearer knowledge that you have a connection to source or a higher power or your own higher self. A true teacher, a true guru is one that connects you with your own source and lets you know that you have the power, not one that lets you know that they are the one in power and that you have to worship them. Those are false gurus.
Woo-hoo. Then you keep using a beautiful term, supposed to walk away. Supposed to walk away. How important is it that we learn the superpower of saying no, because we're such people pleasers?
That is really important. It's really important for you to learn to say no, or to learn to defer making decisions. A lot of empaths do become people pleasers, a really high number. And as people pleasers, we tend to say yes even before we've thought something through. We're like, yeah, I'm there for you. Yeah, I'm going to support you through it. Yeah, even before we've thought it through. So the very minimum, the first step I would ask you to learn, if you know you're a people pleaser, is to defer saying yes or no. Just say something like, oh, can I have a little time to process or to think about it? Or what does it entail? And then don't be afraid to ask more questions, like, what does it involve me doing? And then processing for yourself, how much time will it need for me to say, to do this or to come through with this? Don't be so quick to rescue people and please people. I'm not saying don't rescue people. I'm not saying being mean. But we tend to jump in and rescue people even when they don't need it, because we really want approval. So we have to ask ourselves, does that person actually need our help, or am I doing it because I want their approval? That's what we have to ask ourselves, because we jump in so quickly. And Another thing we have to learn is the difference between assertiveness and aggression. Many empaths think that if I assert myself, they kind of immediately think, oh, I'm being aggressive and controlling. Many people pleasers, they don't know the difference between being aggressive and being assertive. When you are aggressive, you are controlling someone else's life. So the question is, are those people trying to control your life? When you are assertive, you're not interested in controlling anyone else's life. You just want to take your own power back and control your life and not give that control to someone else. That's all. Assertive means taking charge of your own life. And then when you are passive, you are allowing other people to control your life. And you're doing it because you want their approval, but eventually you're going to resent them. So ask yourself, am I being passive? Am I being assertive? Or am I being aggressive? And is the other person being assertive, or are they being aggressive, or are they being passive?
Thank you. And my guess, having worked with a lot of empaths myself, is for the majority, there is maybe one who could boomerang. I haven't seen it yet, but I can imagine. But for the majority of us, we cannot actually cross that line. If I challenged you, if you challenge somebody else's assertiveness training, and you say, I want you to go so outrageously assertive, it seems so incredibly over the top, at worst case, they might actually get to the midline, wouldn't you think?
100%. And you literally, you nailed it. I always do that with people all the time, the people who I speak to at my seminars, my online courses and all. I tell them, like, be outrageously assertive, be selfish. And you find they can't even get to the point of having a healthy ego or a healthy self-esteem or healthy self-love, let alone actually get to the other end of the spectrum of selfishness, narcissism, aggression. They can't even get there. Yet when they are just, like, literally, it's only a matter of just taking charge of their own life, that in itself makes them feel selfish, and they start to question, am I being selfish? Am I being aggressive? And all we're asking them to do is just take charge of your own life, nothing more.
Thank you. How we're in a relationship, and let's say it's not a bad relationship, but it's out of balance, and there's been training. You as an empath are training your partner is training you. You're both doing this dance. How do we start to do a reclamation process of taking back ourselves?
Communication is key. So that's one, is that you have to be able to express your feelings, but in the communication, the key element is you have to express without judgment for the partner. Both sides have to create, that is, if you want this relationship to work and you want to elevate it to the next level, and let's say at least one, if not both partners are empaths, you have to agree that you are not going to judge each other for being who they are. But you are going to communicate in a really, really honest way. And you're not going to hold anything back, but again, no judgment. That's very important. So what do I mean by this? So it would be like saying that I just want to express myself as to this is what I need. So there isn't a case of you do this, you make me feel like this. None of that. No, you. It's always this is how I feel. And when this happens, this is how it makes me feel. I know you don't intend to do that. And this is just a learning process for both of us. But I just wanted to express how I feel when such and such happens. So it would be that kind of language. When it's done in the right language, then it can be very healthy and it takes your relationship to the next level. And if it turns out that it is a relationship where one partner is an empath and the other one is someone who maybe is narcissistic or
we'll go with Dr. Totally Christian Northrup's definition, an energy vampire.
Yes. Yes, if it does turn out that one person really is an energy vampire and is only in the relationship because they are exploiting the other one, then that empath has to decide how important it is for them to hold on to that relationship, or what's more important, keeping that person happy, and that person will not be happy with anything less than having the energy sucked out of them? Or is it more important for them to start coming into their own and recognizing their qualities and shining their own light? And I would suggest they go for the latter, because the former can lead to them getting sick and resentful. And when you allow yourself to really shine and be who you are and decide you're going to take control of your life and be assertive over your own life, then your partner, if they do have narcissistic tendencies, have two choices. One is to either step up if they care and love you enough, or walk away because they're not getting their needs met anymore.
Thank you. How do we, this is the Einsteinian question, that you can't solve a problem from the level of energy from which it was created. As an empath, we may be so far from baseline and so far from understanding what is truly fair and balanced. How do we get to ourselves to an accurate place of self-examination to go, well, this could be healthy and this is not healthy, to actually understand that?
It takes, first of all, it really does take realizing that you are in a situation that is not working for you. That is really the biggest key that starts to open the doors. Because I have seen people in relationships, I know people in relationships where they give and give and give of themselves, but they're not ready to admit it or face the fact they do that, because they're so afraid of losing that relationship. To them, in their heads, there is this fear that if I start to honor my own needs, I might lose this partnership, and that's more scary. And so if they're not there yet, and you can tell people like that, because all you have to do is, if you were to say, hey, should you be doing that for your partner? I mean, it's not convenient for you. Shouldn't they be doing it for themselves? Like, you can just maybe, like, say, you can sense it for that person because you see it happening repeatedly, and you can see that they're strained in the relationship, but they're going out of their way to keep it together. And let's say you even just point it out in a gentle way. And if they immediately defend their partner and say, no, it's not their fault, I want to do it for them, and yet you can see it straining them, then you know they're not ready to go there. Yeah. So you can't force people to become aware that they're empaths and that they don't have to be doormats and people pleasers. You can't do it. But when they themselves kind of go, oh, this isn't working for me, this is wearing me down, I'm starting to feel ill, this is definitely a wake-up call. Only when they start to go there themselves, yeah. It's interesting how the universe works. They will start to see things coming in their path, and they will see things like my videos, my book, yeah. And other people. They will start to see other people's relationships, and they'll be like, I want a relationship like that one. Wow, how do I do that? As they open up, more and more will come their way.
Woohoo! You mentioned something interesting, and this is big hugs. This is such a beautiful interview. I'm having so much fun. So thank you, Anita.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kid and candy store. You said wearing me down when we're feeling drained, and I think you had a term. Maybe I'm getting the word wrong. I'm calling it stacking, where one sensitivity leading to the next, and you're just getting so sensitive to everything around you. How do we pull our energies back in, and then how do we get our energy back? Because it is one thing to say, okay, things get to change, but I'm so exhausted.
That's a beautiful question. So I have developed all these resources and tools. And one of my favorite things to do is to sit quiet, is to really sit quiet. And let me tell you why. And you can do it soaking in a bathtub. You can have soft music on. You can go out in nature. You can be at home. You can sit by the ocean. Absolutely. Whatever floats your boat. Go for a drive, go in the shower, have a long shower. Whatever floats your boat, but it has to be a quiet time. And I even suggest to people to go on what I call an information fast, because When empaths get drained and when they get overloaded, it's because they are taking too much information from this outside world. Here is the gift of the empath, and you have to know this as an empath. You have to realize that your gift is that you are actually connected to your higher self or source or whatever we want to call it. We are sensitive just like those animals that knew to go to higher ground. They knew to go to higher ground. But as an empath, what we tend to do is we tend to give our power away to this physical world. So think about this. You are a sixth sensory being, and you have to tap into this sixth sense to get your answers. But you have not been doing that. You have been giving your power away to this five sensory world. You have actually suppressed your sixth sense and given your power to this five sensory world. You've been taking all your commands and your instructions and everything from this five sensory world to the point where it is cluttered. Your mind is cluttered and there's so much noise that your intuition cannot even get a word in edgeways. So the way out of that overwhelm, that tiredness, that drain, it's definitely quiet time. It's definitely sleep. And when people say, oh, I don't have time to take time away. I'm too busy. I've got kids. I've got this. I've got that. And I can't pause. And I'm like, okay, then you get to stay in exactly the same position. You don't realize, you have to realize that this taking that pause is a matter of life and death for an empath. It really is. You have to value yourself enough to do that. Because when you don't, you're going down that road of getting more and more wake-up calls from the universe, with the universe trying to tell you, you have this gift you have to awaken, and you have sacrificed this gift because you just want to do everything that everyone wants you to do. Wow. So really, the only answer is to take that pause so the universe can talk to you.
I'm putting together some dots here. Thank you so much. I had on Martha Beck on the show recently. And I may get the name of her book wrong. I'm going to call it The Gift of Integrity. But forgive me, Martha, I'm probably getting that wrong. But she talks about her experiment and her journey with an autoimmune disorder required her to go to a radical level of truth, of promising herself for 1 year she would not lie to anyone, beginning or she would always tell the truth to everyone, beginning with herself. That sounds like what we're talking about here is we have to be true to ourselves at the highest level and true to the gifts that we came here with. And if we squash them down anymore, universe is coming running along with a 2x4.
Yes, exactly right. And the reason we're feeling tired and drained is because we've squashed that gift. And it is because we've been running around taking our information from all these people out in the world, the internet, the media, the mass media, social media. We're like being bombarded with all this information. Whereas if we just said stop to all of that and just tuned in to our highest self, to the web of consciousness or source energy, that's where an empath gets its answers from. That's where an empath gets its batteries charged and rejuvenated. And unless we're willing to make a commitment to do that, we will keep losing ourselves to the voices of the world.
Thank you. I have something just popped in my consciousness, which is stop, drop, and love. Stop, drop, ground, love. Grab yourself, hug yourself, and give you all the self-love in the world. How does that sound, Anita?
I like that. Stop, drop, and love. Oh, that's powerful. I like that.
So can you tell us, what does grounding mean to you, and then what does self-love mean to you?
So grounding just means doing things that bring you back to your center. And for different people, it could be different things. You know, like I love earthing, like walking bare feet on grass or on the beach, on the sand, or even just sitting and watching the waves on the beach. So grounding could be, as I said, different things. I also love just sitting quiet and listening to music. I love doing meditation journeys. I love unleashing my imagination. For me, a meditation is not trying to it's not about clearing my mind or emptying my mind. It is about stopping all the input from the outside, but then I let my imagination go. And my imagination is what helps me to create a vision for my future, and it helps me to create a vision for my life, my health, everything. My imagination is the part of me that is tapped into the sixth sense, to the other side. Without my imagination, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. And as kids, we get told, oh, it's only your imagination, or stop imagining things. In fact, your imagination is an amazing tool. It really is. It's your doorway to the other side and to your sixth sensory self. So those are the kinds of things I do to ground myself. And
Woohoo! I've been
yes.
teaching class after class after class over the last 2 weeks on the power of imagination and going into what I call the space capsule or your holodeck and creating a new world for yourself and making it more real than real. And then that's what you get in life. And that's what you're talking about. This is so cool.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It does. That's how you make your life real. It starts from your imagination. It really does.
And then let's go from there about, I'm hearing Eben Alexander in my head, more real than real. I want to make self-love more real than real. What does that mean?
So self-love is so important. So the first thing to realize is self-love is not something shallow about vanity, or just it's not just about getting massages or going to the spa or doing your hair, although all of those things are great. You can do all of those things, but there are people who don't love themselves that do those things in an effort to try and feel better or to cover up the fact that they don't love themselves, so they focus on trying to look good. Self-love is really about loving all of you and not judging yourself. It's about realizing that you are not just a physical body. So to me, self-love is realizing that my physical body is actually only a small part of who I am. Mm-hmm. Who I am is an infinite being, an infinite soul that exists in another realm and has existed for many lifetimes. And this soul it's a facet of the divine, a facet of God or the divine or source. And it has come to express itself through this physical body. And because this soul or this facet of God has chosen to express itself through this body, I have to allow it to express itself. I have to embrace it in every way I can. And I have to allow it to express itself fully. Because if I don't love myself, if I don't love this soul, if I don't honor this journey I've been on, if I beat myself up all the time and I'm judging myself all the time and not allowing my voice to be heard, what I'm doing is I am actually suppressing a piece of the divine, a facet of the divine, and preventing a facet of the divine to express itself through me. And this facet of the divine chose to do this. Who am I to suppress that?
Thank you.
So it is actually, yes, and so it's actually selfish not to love yourself. When you don't love yourself, you're actually saying to God or source, no, you can't come through me because I don't love myself enough to allow myself to express fully.
It is actually selfish not to love myself. I love that, Anita. I love it. I love it. I love it. Because I talk about the ultimate act of selflessness isn't to sacrifice yourself for others, but to be selfish, to think of yourself, not in a narcissistic way, but a taking care of yourself way, which therefore takes care of everyone else because we are one.
Yes. And do you know, contrary to popular belief, I believe narcissists do not love themselves.
So true.
That's why they're so focused on this physical self and so focused on power and things like that. Because when you do love yourself, this is the irony and the dichotomy. When you truly love yourself, your whole self, that's when you realize, oh my gosh, I'm so much bigger than I thought. Oh, I'm connected to source. Oh, I don't have to worry about anything, and you connected to source, and you are happy for other people to shine. You are happy to give your light to other people because you know it's not going to go away. You know it's unlimited. You know that you are part of source. And so the dichotomy or the irony is that you actually come across more humble the more you love yourself.
Woohoo! A few last questions, then we'll dive into a meditation. With that said, I'm having so much fun. We could keep going on and on and on, but we're not going to do that. Everybody, you're going to need to get her book, and we'll tell you where in just a few minutes. But you said a couple key things that I'm going to sew together here. You said, who am I not to love myself? As part of the divine, who am I not to love myself? And you said, allow itself to express itself fully, which begets the question, what does it mean to live fearlessly?
So living fearlessly to me actually just means being yourself fearlessly. So a lot of people mistake that living fearlessly means, oh, now I got to go do stuff that I'm scared of doing. Not necessarily. If you're scared of doing it, don't do it. Living fearlessly, literally to me, means being yourself fearlessly. And so always checking in with yourself. How does this feel to me? It's about living from a place where you stop worrying about other people's approval. When you live from a place where you worry about criticism and you worry about people who are going to disapprove of you, what you've done is you've handed the control of your life and your soul's path to other people. And these other people could be one person, it could be a million people, but as soon as you've handed the control over, you are going to completely lose yourself and become depleted and drained, and you're never going to please everyone anyway. You're never going to please them. And I learned this really early after Wayne Dyer launched my career, and he launched, I call it a career loosely, it's actually a calling. But when he launched me, and then there was all this, I was dealing with a large audience, and the audience were amazing. But let's just say out of an audience of 1,000, maybe there's 5 people who are critics. Here's what I found. I found that I would focus on the critics to try and win them over. I would dance for the critics because I was like, oh my God, I can't stand the fact that they're disapproving of me or they're criticizing me. I need to win them over. So we're saying, let's say 5 in an audience of 1,000. So we're saying 995 people are like, woohoo, we love you and we love what you're saying. You've freed us. This is so empowering. And they go away feeling empowered.
You just woohooed.
I'm focused on those 5. I know. It's catching. I'm an empath, so.
Sorry to interrupt. I was like, wait a second. Yeah. Anita woohooed.
I stole your line.
It's all yours.
And so here's what happens, which empaths need to know this. When you dance for the critics, so I started dancing for those critics because I was dancing for the critics and they would continue to debunk me. And so I would keep trying to convince them and give them more of what they wanted. Because I was now tailoring the content of what I was delivering for critics, what was happening is that I was attracting more critics. Wow. Because my content was for people who are attracted to somebody who is trying to tailor and convince critics. I was attracting more critics. However, had I turned to the 995 people who loved my content, I would have continued to go deeper with them. They would have fed off that power. I would have fed off their power, which is what I do now. I learned the hard way so today I don't try and convince critics. I don't pander to them. I let them be. I don't feel that it's my job to convince them. I pander to the people who resonate with this. I dance with them. And because they feed off my energy, I then feed off their energy. And my work goes deeper and deeper, and I become emboldened to go deeper and say more. And they get more out of me, and I get more courage, and they get even more out of me. And my work has gone deeper because I stopped pandering to the critics.
Woohoo! I'm going to say this real quickly, and then I got to tell people where to find your book and dive into a meditation.
Okay.
There's an MBA. So I was getting my MBA a long time ago, distant galaxy, faraway planet. I read a Harvard Business study of Firestone tires. And the study went like this. Firestone had like a 95% approval rating of their customers. And they said, well, it should be 100%. And so they started focusing on that last 5%, like the 5 people in the audience. And you know what happened? Their approval rating went down and down and down, because you and I and everyone, we just are getting more aware of this. We are playing an energy game. It's about vibration. It's about frequency. It's about resonance. And like attracts like. When you focus on that 5% or that 5 out of 1,000, so 0.5%, you are getting to the resonant frequency of where you do not want to be. When you realize that, that's what you're teaching here. You sink to the higher level and you bring everyone up.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
So where can people go to find your beautiful book? I'm going to hold this book. I'm going to, this book feels so good. Sensitive is the New Strong, and find out more.
There's information on my website, anitamoorjani.com. And this book is sold wherever books are sold, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever in your country, Waterstones in the UK, and wherever books are sold, this book is being sold everywhere, which I'm pleased about. So I am so pumped about this book, and I feel so close to it because this book is the last couple of years of my journey. It really is. It is about being an empath, navigating this world. And it is about being heard as an empath and not being silenced by the more aggressive voices in this world. And in this book, I encourage empaths to shine their light, because typically empaths feel like hiding from this world. And the more we hide, the more we actually, lose control, for want of a better word, of the direction that this world is. And then we kind of come out of hiding and go, oh, wow, why is this world so crazy? That's because all the empaths and compassionate people were hiding.
I'm going to encourage people, Anita. It is beautiful. I'm going to encourage people to get 3 copies of your book. Get one for themselves. Get one for, if you're an empath and you have a dear friend who is an empath, get one for your friend as well. And get one for your local library for an empath who comes in and needs to hear this message as well.
Wow, I love that.
Oh,
thank you for that message.
We're the wayfarers, and you are shining the light. And you're saying it was 2 years of your life, but this has been a whole journey, and you're holding the lantern out for other people to follow. And it's no small job that you're doing. And everybody, when they read this and understand their own power, they're going to go grab a lantern and go stand right, or we'll go beyond a lantern, a blowtorch, and stand right next to you. And that's when we change. That's when we shift and get to this higher level of consciousness. So what you're doing is huge.
Wow, thank you. And it's funny because to me, I'm just kind of expressing myself, so it doesn't even feel huge. I'm kind of going, okay, let me just go with this and see where it goes. Let me just keep going with this and see where it goes. That's kind of what it feels like from the inside.
There's a number that keeps repeating to me in my life. It's 456. And I take it as an angel number because I play with a lot of angels in the work I do now. And 456 to me means stepping one step. It doesn't have to be one giant step. One step in front of the other, letting the path unfold itself, knowing that you are surrounded by love. And that's what you're doing.
Thank you. And I want everybody to know that we are all surrounded by love, and we are all love. And actually, that's a good theme for the meditation too, for everyone to realize that they are love.
Perfect. So 2 last things. We'll dive into the meditation here. Is there a URL you want to send people to?
Yes, it's anitamoorjani.com, ANITAMOORJANI.com. And I have a YouTube channel, and I'm on Instagram and on Facebook and Twitter, actually. So yeah, check out all my social media.
Fantastic. And all of that, AnitaMoorjani.com. And I imagine YouTube.com is probably Anita Moorjani, Instagram, Anita Moorjani, and Facebook, Anita Moorjani as well?
Yep, all of it.
Fantastic. Any last words that you want to share before we do a Coming from Love meditation?
I just want empaths to know that you have a gift. You absolutely have a gift which you have not unraveled and unfolded. And because you have not been aware you have a gift, it's often felt heavy. Your path has felt heavy. And most of the typical traditional teachings for empaths, and so I do want to say the people who have uncovered the journey of the empath, like Elaine Aron, Judith Orloff, and even Christian Northrup, I love their work because they have paved the way, and they came up with the word empath, and they've paved the way, and they've brought it to our attention. And I love that. It helped me so much. But what I wanted to say is where my book differs from theirs is that my book does not focus on boundaries. In fact, my book is not even that much a focus on saying no, although I do cover it, saying no. I do talk about saying no. I do talk about boundaries. But the bigger focus of my book is on the gifts of being an empath. Because what I believe in doing is I believe in shifting the focus. It's just like when somebody could feel really pretty darn good, and then they go to a doctor for a checkup, and the doctor finds one thing wrong with them and tells them, and then that becomes their main focus. It's like, oh my God, and they start focusing on that, and then they feel really lousy. So I always think that that's the biggest mistake that our medical paradigm tends to make. But my point is that the same thing for the book is I encourage doctors and medical professionals to help their patients and their clients to focus on wellness. Even if they're sick, shift their focus to what it takes to be well. My book does exactly the same. If you're an empath, let's not focus on the trials and tribulations of being an empath and how to put in boundaries and all. Let's focus on what are the gifts of being an empath. Let's focus on increasing the gifts and making those gifts bigger and exploiting those gifts and using those gifts in the world. Just like with wellness, let's focus on wellness instead of illness. Let's focus on how to make more wellness. So shift the focus, and that's what my book is about. Sorry that was so long.
Woohoo! Are you kidding? That was perfect. And that's talking about what we were talking about earlier, frequency, vibration, resonance, attunement. What you're saying is to focus on a higher frequency, a higher vibration, and that shifts everything for you. I'm going to add one last note, and then let's do this meditation. If you want to find out if you are an empath, take the quiz at AnitaMoorjani.com. Have your friends take the quiz as well. So then whenever you're ready, if you wouldn't mind leading us in a short Come From Love meditation.
Okay. So I'd like everybody to relax now and close your eyes. And I would like you to imagine a beam of light coming from above and entering you through your crown. So this beautiful, bright, sparkling beam of light that's coming from above is entering into your body from your crown, and it's bright, and allow it to take on any color that it chooses. And as it enters your body, it's bathing the inside of your body. It's bathing your head, the inside of your head, and it's traveling down your body, down through your throat, and into your chest area, and flooding your chest area with this beautiful light, this light that you have allowed to take on any color it chooses. It's sparkly. It can even take on multiple colors if it wishes. And see this light now traveling down your shoulders, your arms, into your fingers, and down your torso, and down through your legs and your feet. This light emanates a huge, beautiful aura that extends all around you. It emanates this aura that is way bigger than your body. This light is getting brighter and brighter. And this light is made of source energy. It is your life force energy. It is pure consciousness. It is pure love. And it is pure. It comes directly from source. And you are never without it. You are never disconnected from it. This light expands. I would like you to see it expand and expand so that it's even greater than the room that you are in, and greater than even the building or the house you're in. And watch it expand. And it overlaps with the energy of other people around you. As you allow yourself to feel the love that the universe has for you, this light expands. As you allow yourself to be who you truly are, this light gets brighter because the universe loves you. Your soul loves you. Your soul only wants you to be happy and be yourself and express yourself. And as you allow yourself to express your truth and be who you are, this light only gets bigger and brighter. When you suppress yourself, the light diminishes, so you don't need to do that. The brighter your light, allow yourself now to see that light getting brighter and brighter and bigger, so that all you have to do is be joyful in the moment, whatever it takes to be joyful, whether it means resting or sleeping or earthing or listening to music, or laughing with your friends, or even eating an ice cream and watching the sunset. Whatever it takes to be joyful, or playing with your puppy, whatever it takes to be joyful, expands that light. And as that light expands, you take it with you wherever you go. And as you take that light with you wherever you go, and that light is encompassing other people because it's expanded so much, other people are touched by your joy just by being in your energy, without you saying a word. Other people are uplifted by you just by you being joyful. Other people are uplifted by your very presence without you having to do anything. So see that light continue to expand. Feel the joy it emanates. Feel the healing that it gives you and your body and every organ within your body. That light bathes every organ and gives it energy. It gives every organ in your body energy and feeds it. And that light depends on you to give it enough nourishment, to love it enough, to love your body enough, to give it enough nourishment. It depends on you to fuel it so that it can continue to shine brightly. And you fuel it by giving it rest and food and joy and laughter. That's how that light fuels itself and continues to shine brightly so that it can light the way for everybody else. And with that knowledge, I would like you to slowly now feel yourself and your body in this room that you're in, on the seat that you are. Slowly feel your fingers and your toes. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes and know that you are a beautiful spiritual being of pure consciousness. And all you have to do is shine brightly, and you will be helping the world and the universe.
Woohoo! This has been so superlatives don't do it justice. Beautiful. Anita, I cannot thank you for being on the show enough today. This is beautiful.
Thank you. This was so fun for me. I love it. And I love you, and I love your show.
And I love you, and I love everything you're doing in the world, and I love your bringing your light. So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get sensitive is the new strong, and begin discovering your true strength today, and shine bright. Woohoo! I'm almost without words. This was one of my all-time favorite, most beautiful interviews. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. I would certainly say go out, get 3 copies of Sensitive is the New Strong. And of course, I would get your copies of Awe, the Automatic Writing Experience, where you're going to be tapping into your angels, tapping into your guides, and tapping into your true self. So learn how to turn your journaling into channeling as well. You can get that at automaticwriting.com with lots of bonuses. You can get that, of course, also at Amazon. To check out more incredible interviews, click here. Be sure to subscribe below and click on that bell icon. Be notified of upcoming shows, YouTube premieres, and live events with me every Sunday night. Big thumbs up, and if you like this, leave your comments below. Above and beyond all else, shine bright. Woohoo! Love you guys. And keep on shining bright.